Greetings everyone, my name is Caerwyn. I am back with another episode of the Bot Clinic. This show is of course me helping analyze bots, hopefully giving insight and helping in any way I can bot authors. Today I'm going to be something really cool. I'm going to be analyzing the entire grand finals of last season's ProBots. That also has been my last, unfortunately, season as the ProBots admin, but I'm here for content. So I'm going to be analyzing this entire series and giving my thoughts. Hopefully you're going to find this insightful. And I do remind you, any author that wants this sort of help, feel more than free to join the Crown Club membership. And I will be happy to go over some replays and give insights in the next clinic. So without further ado, let us begin. We're going into game number 1 on 2000 atmosphere between Eris and -0. Now, Eris has been having an incredibly high win rate on ladder and in ProBots tournament. So this defeat at the grand finals, I am spoiling by the way, this grand finals has happened a while ago. The score was 4-3. Let it be known. Let it be known. But this result might have been a surprise for most people to see -0 come up triumphant. So I'm going to be trying to give my best thoughts to analyzing this. Now, I want everyone to remember this robotics bay. This is going to be a pivotal and key moment in the series. And maybe even in bot meta, I do not know. But keep an eye out on this robotics bay. The thing is that so far Eris has just pretty much excelled in early game, being able to hold timings as well as just macro incredibly well. So any macro game looked kind of scary. Usually Eris plays something along the lines of Roach Hydra amongst other units. And we see just a very passive build from -0. Now obviously the downside of this build is a late third base. As you can see, it's getting denied. Well, it did not get denied in the end. But a 5-minute third base, it is quite late, so this is a downside of the build. But we already see a Colossus and robotics, not robotics. Extended thermal lance, yes, that's the one. On production and +1 and a Twilight Council, so we see a very high-tech setup here. Now, this does allow Eris to drone up. Honestly, you can even drone up a bit higher when you see this, but still a respectable amount of drones. And we're already starting to see a supply gap here. Eris macros very, very well, and obviously Protoss supply is fairly low at this phase of the game because, well, you don't have a lot of gateways and you don't have a lot of bases, which is why the supply is not quite low. And let us not forget that Roaches are very supply heavy. That's also another reason. Ravagers as well, so that's why there's a supply gap. Now, this is a fairly big supply gap, and this move out, so you can't do this move out. Honestly, this is not enough units, so unless your opponent has been extremely greedy, I'm not sure this is a good idea of a move out. However, this is the most important part of the analysis, okay? Even though I think this move out is greedy, I want everyone to look at this fight because this is going to be what, when I watched this series for the first time, I thought this is the key moment to understand this entire series. So let's look at the fight, shall we? Look at the Roaches trying to fight the Colossi. They're very much struggling to actually fight. You see the Colossi are kind of kiting them, yes? And the Roaches are not really dealing a lot of damage. Meanwhile, the Colossi are actually using their splash. Now, the supply is still looking healthy because it's not a lot of Colossi, right? Supply looking very, very healthy. And this push gets fended off. Right, and now this army is isolated. The Colossus can no longer micro. I still want you to remember how it looked when the Roaches were trying to fight the Colossi. And now the supply gap is simply too big. This build order from -0 just did not have enough units, and it's floating. This is a very bad time to float. Actually, you want to max as soon as possible when you're facing like super fast Roach max out like this. Like this is, I do not know if this was intentional by Eris or just a response, but this is pretty much a Roach Ravager max out all in sort of 66 drones. You do not want to be floating and you do not want to be losing units for free here. That's why I think this move out was bad, because when you're facing mass Roach and not too high drone count, you really don't want to be attacking into that. You want to be at home on shield batteries because your army is going to be better. So now the supply gap is far too big, and at the end of the day, units are units, and this game is going to go towards the way of Eris. It will take a while. And again, this move out, by the way, like Colossi alone, they don't hold an oomph. But look how they're isolating the roaches here. Nobody wants to engage these Colossi. Up until now. And you see now they're splitting as well. And this is the kind of Achilles heel of bots. Like, they micro so well, but they cannot think for themselves. And I want you to remember that as we go into the next game. We're going to jump into the second game of the series now. This game is going to be on Glittering Ashes. So we did see Eris pull out ahead, but we saw some interesting play with Colossi, right? So let's see what we have for game 2. We see much of the same. It's a macro opener for both sides, right? And to the cynicals, or maybe, I don't know, to me, I am the cynicals. You know, you see a macro win in game number 1 and you think to yourself, it's just going to be a few more macro wins, easy peasy. We do see the extremely fast robotics bay again, so that means once more fairly slow third base. Which is, again, I think a bit of a weakness. You don't want to fall behind in economy too quickly. It's also, again, denied. So all in all, very unfortunate, but now we see Eris is macroing more. So the difference between the last two games is that when Eris did the 1-1 Roach max out, it had a lot of units. Now it doesn't have quite as many units. And we once more actually see this weird move out. Now, I have to say I'm not a big fan of that move out. It's just very easy to scout, especially when you have a third base that is late. And with enough roaches, this is not too threatening, I think. So I'm not a fan of this sort of move out, because there's a lot to lose here. This is very expensive, especially because you have like a late third base. But however, this game, it is actually, in my opinion, going to pay off a bit. You get a queen for free. And then look again. I want everyone to take close attention. Look at the army struggling to fight in. Because, like, okay, look at this Zerg army. You could literally, a human player would select all of this, A-click here, just take their hands off the keyboard, go back home, right? Yeah. But bots don't work like that. And I'm not criticizing Eris, by the way. Like, that's just the weakness of bots. I've even tried making a bot myself, and I did get an aneurysm trying to get how to make things like attack. This is one of the interesting stuff about the bot scene, and the fact that they can't just decide like a human intuitively to just, hey, I can A move this, right? So even though this army is again completely lost like last game, it's still taking a while and of kiting to kill it. I still want to pay close attention to that, because these Colossi are time and time again proving that they're messing the army control a bit. I do not know where these stalkers came from. So we're going to fast forward a bit again. This army looks completely garbage. This looks like another over game. Now, I do not know if this army would counterattack immediately. It would be game over. Again, bots, they can't make these decisions as easily as humans, which is why this is not happening. That is still the reason I think that Colossus move out is very dangerous, because we saw this game Eris wasn't as committed, still held it fairly easily, and now look, this is not an army. I do like the addition of disruptors. I'll talk to those about those in a bit. That push is too dangerous. I would go into Colossi in a more macro style, faster third, and then into Colossi, maybe get batteries on your third too to be safe, and then you have a nice army for the late game. Well, not the late game. Middle to late game. Something like that. But then you're safe and you're economic and you're not losing 2 Colossi for free at this like other side of the map. So I really do think if this army would have counter pushed immediately, the game would be over again. Completely over. That was a scary disruptor. These are weird move outs. These are too ambitious in my opinion. Especially adepts at this phase of the game don't do anything. wasted. Like this is not an army, you know. A human player would split this into an arc, A-move this and win immediately. But again, for bots that's very hard to do. Which is why what I'm getting at throughout this entire point is that units like these two are very good in my opinion. The way they mess up with army control of other bots, I think, is fantastic. And we're gonna keep watching. Now, that was a strange disruptor shot. Anyway, this is what I mean by about adepts, by the way. Like, they do not deal damage almost. So they're actually just dead supply. And yet, I still think... Look at the Colossi and the Immortals like hiding back and forth. The Adeptor S here was kind of cute though, I will say that. Disruptors have not really gotten anything. I do still like the attempt of playing Disruptors actually. But at the end of the day, it's this bad boy. It's already on 19 kills, but I just... Okay. This Colossus. Where is this Colossus even? There it is. Okay. Look at it in this army fight. Okay, kiting back. I have to commend -0. I think the Colossi have been controlled honestly very well. Look at this. Just getting free splash damage on the Ravagers, not getting hit by anything. Kills a Ravager for free. And look at all this splash, especially off creep, this is massive. Now, if you could like target the Hydras because they take more damage, that would be fantastic. But still, a Ravager and a Hydra for free. You see, once again the game looks over, but these Colossi are proving a problem. And now look, there is another one. And this is off creep. And look at this Colossi. And look at this Colossi. This Colossus is on 23 kills. This one, still on 2 kills, full HP though. And now there is a Miracle Hold. Now we also have 4 Immortals. I think the addition of Immortals is very good call here. Is a very nice call because a lot of roaches. And now this army is not killable anymore, Immortal Colossus. Basically what I'm trying to say is while the Colossi have not gotten an inhuman kill count, their range, this is what when I watched this is what I felt was the difference maker. The range of the Colossus made a very difficult time for the Zerg army to decide when to engage or when not to engage. Now again, this is actually like a very debatable fight, but it's actually going to be fine because again, these units are not sure what to do. And now they're just kind of trickling in. I think it's because of the Colossi, maybe it's because of the Immortals. Maybe it's a bug even, you know, for all I know. I think it's the range of the Colossus that is making them so potent. And this game that was pretty much lost for -0 in my opinion is starting to recover more and more. Now it's not over yet by any means, but the longer this goes on, it gets better and better. I think what's really missing here, maybe for Eris, is the addition of Corruptors, because you just A-move them, the Colossi die. There haven't even been that many Stalkers. I really do think actually the addition of Corruptors would solve these problems, but for the moment, these Colossi are just... Look at this. There aren't even too many Lings in these armies anymore. This Colossus is on 44 kills, this one was on 15. They just don't die and they keep getting value. And it might not sound like a lot of kills, but they just keep getting value. These Disruptors are not as impressive. I think the Colossi are doing better. Still, I think Disruptors are a cool, like, direction to explore. That was weird. And yeah, the Colossi got a lot of value here. I think the Zerg army had a very hard time deciding which front to attack, and then it just lost both fronts. The Immortals also actually kind of managed to do very well versus the Roaches, again because of a range matter. I think just Colossi do it even better. I think this heavy Immortal composition in general does fairly well versus -0 because versus Eris, because it usually goes very Roach heavy. And there are no stuff like, I don't know, Lurkers, there's no Ravager Link Bane. I'm not even sure how Zergs usually plays EVP nowadays, though human meta is different because there's the hero style as well, obviously. But it's kind of missing a bit of oomph, so the Immortals are not bad as well. And then the Colossi just have a lot of range. And this game was the turning point, in my opinion, of the series at least. Now I'm going to speed through this because at this point it is pretty much over. I will admit, again, a matter of range. These Corruptors can't really decide when to engage. Tempests are fucking awful. I'm sorry for swearing. You can bleep that if we're not allowed. Corruptors are absolutely awful. Wait, no. What was I saying? Tempests. Thank you. Tempests are fucking awful versus Corruptors, okay? Not good at all. These Corruptors, they can A-move this. But again, because bots cannot make decisions as easily as humans, then it is a bit of a problem. I'm not sure how I would code a Corruptor behavior. Maybe I would try to make a check if there are any ground units below the Tempests or any Void Rays. I'm not sure if that's possible. Again, sadly, I'm not a programmer, but if there's a way to like judge if there are any ground units near the Tempest or Void Rays, and if there aren't, I dive them always and ever. And the Colossi especially, like, because Corruptors do very well. They deal bonus damage to massive, of course. So that's my rant. We are back yet again, my friends. The series is tied 1-1. And we are going to Curious Minds. What are we going to see from our bots? We see a cheeky 14 pull from Eris and a gas and a gas. Now, this is some time for some harsh truth with Caerwyn. Okay, so a little bit of history lesson as an intro to this game. I'm gonna let the game play while I'm talking though. The one base Ravager Rush, that is a build, that is an all-in. I'm not sure if you knew. That is a Zerg versus Terran all-in that was popular around 2017, I think, because Terran players were not really scouting, SCV scouting, I mean, and that build was quite powerful if you don't SCV scout. That was a ZVT all-in in 2017. It's not even popular versus Terran anymore, yeah? We are seeing this very build right here in Zerg versus Protoss. Now, I actually really like the change up. I love this, that Eris is actually throwing in some all-ins. That's like when sterile all-ins, you just don't expect it. So I actually really like the act of adding all-ins. This is not the one to choose. Here's why, in my opinion, this is not the one to choose. Protoss always probe scout, so there's no way you can hide this. Absolutely every Protoss will scout this. Now, the matter of whether the bot registers that information or not is something else, true. But this is not something you can deny scouting of. And I'm sorry, but versus gateway units, and especially with batteries, because you cannot deny the scouting, Ravagers are not good enough alone. This build is not the all-in to choose versus Protoss, and I thought this is where the series is getting shifty. I've actually also talked to Rasper. He's been very nice and gave me a lot of insight. Apparently, we're going to see it a bit later, but the Ravagers weren't quite acting like as properly intended. And yeah, I'm just... If you're a Zerg author, I actually recommended this build to like... I think when I talked to Rasper even maybe, but... There are other all-ins to play. I recommend the gas pool hatch 19 drone all-in, where you make a single round of like 7 roaches. You make one of those into a Ravager and then you just flood Lings. I used to play that build. That's on 2 hatcheries, of course. I used to play that build when I cheesed a Zerg a while ago. I love that build. I think it would do a lot better. a lot better than this. And here we see why. So actually, nice reaction from -0. I think the third gateway might even be an overreaction in my opinion, but this is a very nice reaction. Now what? What are the Ravagers going to do now, right? Because Stalkers are actually not too bad versus Ravagers, and their shield batteries, and what's going to happen, right? This one Zealot is fighting them alone because he has a battery. So I think this was... I loved the tactical decision of mixing all-ins in. I think for the future, Eris and other Zerg bots should utilize a different build order. Especially like you see the Ravagers trying to get in. Which is very unfortunate because the build is not even at its full strength. But yeah, this is not something you can break at all. Stalkers actually just beat this without the batteries, actually. Now they are being a bit cautious because of the biles. Obviously this is a bit of the matter of the range, like the Colossi, where they're unsure what to do. But Stalkers just straight up beat these. I believe they have the same range as Ravagers. And they have quite a nice damage, and they have shields and their batteries here, so this is just... You cannot break this. You cannot break this with this build. And yeah, I recommend to avoid this build. Okay, I know I might have sounded rough. No judgment or anything, I just... yeah, I know this build, and I'll be honest with you, I was watching this, you know... I don't know if all of you know, but as one of my responsibilities as the admins, I would watch the replays ahead of schedule. Or, well, ahead of broadcast, I mean, to make sure there are no bugs or anything. So I watch all the ProBots replays. And when I watched this game, I saw the build and I just knew the game is over instantly against Eris, because Protoss is just very good at holding these things. That's the truth. And this is even a bit dicey because there are no more Stalkers here. I'm not really sure where the rest of them are. This was like more dangerous than it needed to be, and it's still not really dangerous at all. And the game is simply over. Yes. So we are back to macro territory, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to have another interesting game here. I am going to once again kind of ignore and not ramble over the early game because I have nothing to say and my throat is combusting. We see another Robo opener here from -0, another fast Robo Bay. I like this change up. Again, I'm not sure the build is the best way to execute it, but I like this mix up into the Colossi, making -0 less predictable because it used to be only Adepts too. Like I like these. I like this a lot. And the Colossi, as far as I'm concerned, the Colossi themselves have proven themselves. Once again, we see this sort of strange timing. Now they're chasing the Lings, though. Yeah, actually, now again, the exact same thing that has happened in Game 1. We see a 66 Roach max out. And Protoss just does not have enough army supply to deal with this. Right, so I'm going to give some of my advice as to how to hold this. First of all, you need to scout the fact that either that the opponent is only making roaches and too many of them. I would keep an observer above the Zerg army, and would in code maybe run a check of measuring how many supply of how many roaches it is, or how much supply. What is wrong with me? Or I would count drones. Counting drones is a bit easier, maybe judging by the 4th base saturation, but that is a bit hit or miss. And if this is coming to you, you need more units and you need shield batteries. You cannot hold this with just this army because there's all of this coming as well. Shield batteries are very good. I would like to see some shield batteries in the 3rd base. Those would make your life very much easier, especially with super battery. And this float is not great because all of this can be units. And of course, like I said before, the kind of late Nexus also means you don't have too much economy. But to hold these, you need to scout. The Colossi, in my opinion, are once more going to prove their value. Very good kiting here from the Protoss army. But in this game, it's once more a units measure, like just a matter of units. Do you see what I mean? I hope that the army fights are explaining what I mean, though. Like, again, they do not have a lot of kills, But that's not their strength, I think, their DPS. So much as the fact is the Zerg army is not just A-moving the Protoss army, and then the rest of these units, like the Immortals, Stalkers, they don't get hit quite as much. Let's look at this fight again. That's the way I judged these games. Like, this is not just A-moving into this. Because the Colossi have a lot of range and the Zerg is trying to micro. Now, obviously, they would kind of be doing this micro against the Stalkers and the Immortals too. But the Stalkers and Immortals have less range than the Colossi. And this is where I feel like the macro games have kind of went -0 side. Again, there is a bit of a problem of dealing with the fast roach max out. But it does survive, sort of, just on very, very poor economy. And I don't think it's enough economy to stay in the game. But the fights, look at the fights. The Immortals are trading very well. Immortals are very good. This one has 10 kills. And these Colossi just don't die. And again, they don't have too many kills, but they just do not die. So the Protoss army gets to march. And now we have 4 Immortals versus nothing but roaches. Now, when the Zerglings come up, it is a bit of a harder fight. As you can see, Zerglings are very good. I was kind of missing Zerglings in other games. And now it's hard. But look at the Colossi here even. They're still pulling their weight in. Now, like I said, there was too much economic damage this game, so it is probably there's no recovery possible. So what I'm feeling on the Zerg side, gotta come up with some answers for either in code of... I'm not sure how you would code the army better because I'm not smart enough for that, but something about the range I feel like is giving the Colossi an advantage. As far as the Protoss go, more responses to the fast roach max outs, because those have been the bane of the macro game so far. And then maybe not doing the first timing with the Colossi, in my opinion. That is of course only my lowly opinion, but still. Alright, we are jumping in. We are jumping in. To game 5. I am sorry, my brain just imploded. We see again this strange move out that I do not give my blessing to. And a faster, I believe this is a faster Stargate than usual, even though I might not have been attentive and that is a normal Stargate. I find it very strange that you make a Stargate and then not make out of it for a while and then make a third Robo. I would very much instead like to see a faster third base, no Stargate, and then getting a fast max out with a Colossus Immortal Gateway army. That would be much nicer in my opinion. Colossi gameplay. They're good units. They are good units. They are very much outnumbered currently, however. But look how they remain still. They just do not die. Now, sadly, yet again, a bit of a numbers game. I feel like this was really the story of Roach timings doing too much. Don't forget to join the Crown Club member to get your replays analyzed by the most sleep-deprived person on earth. Yet again, we see Colossus timing. This time, however, it is later, I think. Wait, no. This... Talking out of my ass. I'm just gonna ignore what I just said, and we see another one of those weird-ass timings. This time it retreat. Actually, I do like this. I like the fact that it retreated. -0 definitely should have retreated there, and that was a good call. And we see yet another one of these problematic roach pushes. I think this one is going to go way better. Why is it going to go way better, you might ask? Look how clumped this army is. Look how tight this ramp is. And that is why it is going to get better this game. Because Roach Ravager is trying to break into this. This is an abysmal fight. You do not have the range to win this. And it's just inefficient. Which is funny because it's fucking equal in units lost. Still. This was really not the way to go. Also, I forgot to mention this. I would really like to see more than 2 Colossi. I think going for 4 would be really nice here. Because they have actually proven themselves. So I actually think... Here's what I would do maybe to try and test the waters further with this composition of Protoss. If I was like doing a Protoss bot, 4 Colossi, more gateway units, faster third base. And then you have a gateway army with Colossi, more Colossi. And then you can add Immortals too, if you want. And I think that would be even nicer. Yeah, I actually believe that. And this game, the resource loss was really bad. And why did the fight go so badly? Because of the Colossus range and because of the choke. Something must be done about this float, however. I think this game is worse than usual, actually. I don't think it floated this much before. But you really do not wish to float. 4 Immortals is very overkill if you're facing other compositions than pure Roach, by the way. Well, actually... 4 Robos is fucking overkill. 4 Immortals total might be fine. I would really much rather have like more gateways, because then you can reinforce faster with something like Stalkers, Blink Stalkers. If this was human play, I would say Zealots. I'm not sure how Zealots would do in bot games. I would like to test Charge Lots though, because even if the army kites versus them, that means the army is not fighting your army but kiting away from the Zealots. I would still like to test them, but I understand if no. And yeah, now it's just a matter of simple A moving. The fights here were simply too bad. If Eris would have gone for this third base, I believe Eris would have won the grand finals right here. But that is not what happened. And now we see -0 taking another game in the macro portion of it. For the last game of this analysis, I'm already completely bananas and we're going to go into Berlingrad. I'm actually so exhausted. I was about to call this map Ephemeron. And this was really a heartbreaker for me, because even though I don't have a favorite bot, I like seeing cool games, and then I legit saw this build. And I was sad. Because you already heard my rant on Curious Minds. This build just does not work versus Protoss. And I saw this at this point and I was like, there's a new winner for ProBots. And indeed, again, like I said, especially sad because their averages didn't act as intended. So this all-in didn't even show its full strength. But yeah, you don't break this. Yeah. So... all in all, I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this analysis. I'm going to stare deeply into the camera for this. I think the direction of a Colossi versus Zerg in the bot scene is very cool, and I think you should be exploring that. I would even add more Colossi and more gateway units, try and make the builds a bit more economic and less robotics facilities spammy. But I really like the idea of them. I think MindMe has done a great job as well. For Zerg, I would try Corruptors earlier versus Colossi maybe, or exploring maybe other compositions. I do like the kind of fast Roach timings. They're hitting like a truck. You have to be careful not to do what happened in Blackburn though, like not going up outrageous ramps like that. As for Protoss, like I said, faster third and shield batteries there if you want to hold the Roach fast timings. And For Zerg, there are cool all-ins you can play. Don't play anything that is one base, especially not the Ravager. One base Ravager. That is it for me. I have been Caerwyn. I hope this was very helpful for you. And this is a special episode, so there is going to be a bot clinic for October as well. And I highly, highly recommend any author that wants analysis of their bot, join the Crown Club membership and submit us replays to the clinic. And I will do my best to help. I've been Caerwyn. Have a good one.